Okay, well, not in the shed today as it is absolutely freezing outside, but that does mean I can make a start on the control box for the VFD for the lathe. I've just done a little sketch of where I want the controls to go and a few measurements I've been messing around with to try and fit everything in. This is the enclosure I'm going to use, which is the same size as the one I use for the taco display. I've got a wiring diagram I've sorted out, worked out all my programming I'm going to need to do on the inverter and the VFD, and I've got most of my switches. Only the one I'm waiting for is the Estop switch, but I have got the dimensions for that, so I can drill everything today, which is what I plan to do. So what I'm going to do is transfer the measurements. I'm going to put some masking tape on the front of here, transfer the measurements onto here, and then just drill those out to the sizes. And these are the switches I'm going to use, or controls. This is a simple on, off, on toggle switch. That's going to be my forward and reverse, and obviously also in the middle will be an off position. And I've got a small pot there. They actually sent the wrong one. It's meant to be a 10k, but that's actually a 5k, although I think that probably will still work. That is only a cheap carbon track pot. I have actually ordered a wire wound one to replace that, but it's the same hole dimension, so I'll just be able to replace that when it turns up. That's just the knob for that, and I've just got these cheap non-latching switches, which are just going to be start stop controls. Yeah, so let's just get on with it. So that's that all marked up, ready for drilling. So I'm going to brave the cold, get in the shed and drill those holes out. And I also need to make one in the back here for the cable to go through, and a couple of fixing points, but I should have to do that outside. I have to line it up on the lathe to see whether I can match up with the existing holes that are there. So here we go, on with the hat, coat, gloves, whatever, and get out in that shed. Okay, so there's the box, holes in the lid, the various switches, which I will fit in a minute. And that's the rear box. I'm going to use the old existing cable gland that is a little bit on the large size, but I've got to get 3 cables through there, so that might not be far out. And the weird thing is, when I actually lined up the fixing holes, they're not even in line on the machine. That's, yeah, it's strange how they lined their fixing holes up. How they just, well, perhaps they just don't measure them, perhaps they just drill the hole straight through the box and into the steel. But still, never mind, that will fit. Yeah, so I'll get these switches in now and have a look and see how it looks then. Maybe even just solder in the common wire So that's all ready for when I attach it. So there we are so far. So I've got my forward, reverse, that's also an off, start, stop, and that'll be the variable speed. Not so, I'm just waiting for the Estop switch. Then I can start the wiring up. And I've already sorted out the wiring diagram, which I've got on there, and the colours that correspond to the cable I've got. That was quite simple to quite straightforward to sort out. Over the programming took quite a bit of research. For the inverter, managed to work out what I need to do. These are for the multifunction switches, which refer to the X ports, X connections on the inverter, which I've got one of these. Let's get this out of the box. They're all over, or VFDs rather, which are all over eBay and Amazon. Basic AT1. Which is that. A little bit out of, just bring it up. Yeah. So, yeah, one of them. It does come with instructions. Each of these. Let's say they are, well, quite vague there. There's a lot there, but there's no detail. For instance, if you look at this bit here, which is basically what I've got on my paper here, which I've got the programming I need to do, the functions. Yeah, so you've got your multi-function switch or connections, your exports there. The rest of that is it actually starts over on this page. And you've got these actual settings. So you've got 0, not functioning, number 1, wire control stop, keying operation, stop keying, all these, but it doesn't actually tell you what those mean in detail. You know, they refer to different types of switches, as I found out, which after quite a lot of searching on various forums, and well, I was all over eBay trying to all over YouTube trying to find something which referred, and there's a lot of information but nothing seemed to relate to what I was trying to do, until I actually came across all this, which was on a forum, and it actually goes into detail on what each of these actually mean, which then, once I read that, all became clear. Yeah, so I'll either put this in the description or at the end of the video, in case anyone else wants to do this and they're having trouble trying to work out what's what. The only drawback with this inverter is when you want to do the Estop function, which unfortunately, on this piece of paper here, parameter 19, Estop, unfortunately you need to use a normally open mode for your switch, which is not the best way to do it, obviously, because if you get a cut cable or whatever, your Estop, it's not going to do anything. at all. So yeah, why they've decided to do it that way, I really don't know. But anyway, at least I know what needs to be wired up and how I need to do it. Yeah, and the other thing about these inverters, this particular one, which I don't really like, is the fact you've got no cable restraint. You've got the screw terminals there, and these are mains level, so the 220 volt. You clamp the end of the wire in, but you've actually got no physical cable restraint. So the cable could get tugged, pull out, and you've got live wires flying around. So I don't think that's a very good design. So when I actually come to fit this, wherever I decide to put it, I'm going to have to figure out some kind of cable restraint for the mains cable, at least anyway, and the one that goes off, the power cable that goes off to the motor. Yeah, so yeah, once I get back in the shed, I'm going to decide exactly where I'm going to fit that. Did think about fitting it onto the stand of the lathe, which might be quite a good idea, because then I've only got the one loose or flying cable going away to the main socket, rather than all 3 wires or 4 wires being free. But yeah, we'll have to have a look at that and get to that point and make a decision once it's warmed up a bit out there, because it is still freezing. Okay, got the control box here all wired up. I'll have to just excuse this shadow down this side. That's from where I dropped the camera. I think the CMOS has come loose and it's all out of line. Just trying to find out how much it's going to cost to repair that, or if not it's going to be a new camera. But anyway, yeah, so if I now plug the power in, hopefully you can see this. I'm not sure whether this is actually this camera's focusing all that good at the moment. You can see it's all up and running. I've programmed this all up. I have now got a different potentiometer. That was the old cheapy one, which was the wrong value anyway. So I'll change that over. So that's all my wiring in the back of there, my switches. That's the front. So as you can see, I've got my forward switch in position. This is my variable speed. Hopefully you can see that turning in the correct position, or rotation. So we've got forward. That now, I've reprogrammed this switch. I'll explain that a little bit later. And that is reverse. And we've also got stop, start. We'll go straight to forward again. Stop, start, and the E switch, which is latching. Release that again, and also notice that it doesn't start. You then have to press the start again, which is a little bit of a safety feature, I suppose. Yeah, so if I now stop that, you can see I've got my 2 cables here, which is 6 wire. In hindsight I should have got one 9 wire, would have been a better idea, but at least I have got some spares in there for other things. I've still got one terminal unused, the X3. I don't know if I can zoom this in. I don't think this will focus very well with the damage. Yeah, so you can see my wire in there. I've got all my switching on this, and the variable speed is on this one. Yeah, yeah, so I'll go into a bit more detail about the programming. I'll just switch this off for now. Oh, by the way, for programming, quite straightforward. I think this probably has been covered in other people's videos as well. So basically, when it's not running, not doing anything, you basically hit the program button, and using the up and down arrows here and this cross arrow button. So say the programming of the variable control, the external pot, which is P10. So that's flashing on 0. So I'll just press that across. Now flashing on the middle 0. Press that up, takes that to 10. Then hit the function data button, and you can see I've already programmed that into 2, just flashing there. You know, so you just use these to change that. So if you want to take that down to 1, you just press that, and then hit the function data button again to save it. So I'll put that back up to 2 because that's where I want it. Function data end, and it then takes you up to the next program control. To come out, let's hit the program button again. Yeah, just turn that variable thing down. Right. Yeah, yeah, I'll just reset up and I'll go through the actual programming that I've done and had to change. I'll just unplug this first. Yeah, so what I've got on here, this is a latching toggle switch. I have sent away for a non-latching version, although I'm not sure I'm going to need it now, because as you've seen, it actually does work with the non-latching start stop buttons. Problem I had to start with is I could set this to forward, and it wouldn't stop with the stop button. The latching programming side takes precedence over the non-latching. So what I've done, I've actually reprogrammed that, and I'll put this all up at the end on a sheet which will be much clearer. So it's the forward and reverse here, which is on X4 and X5, which is program 53 and 54 on there. 53, 54. This probably isn't coming out too clear because this thing isn't focusing, but yeah, so originally I had those on 5 and 6, which I don't know if that's going to focus. Is 5 is wire forward operation, 6 is wire reverse operation, and it wasn't working correctly with the momentary start stop switches. So I've just now reprogrammed that to 11 and 12, which is keying forward switching and well, that says reverse switch keying, but it's basically the same thing the other way round. Yeah, there, so it's now all working correctly. Yeah, so really that should be a non-toggle switch, but it does seem to work with a non-latching switch, but it does seem to work okay with the latching switch, so I'm going to leave that as is for now. Yeah, so that's basically all working. So I'm now going to get the motor fitted to the lathe and then decide where I'm going to mount this, which is not going to be too far away. As you can see, I've got quite a short feed, power feed from the motor to the VFD. I was going to mount this actually on the mount the inverter on the stand of the lathe itself, but I have read on some forums people have suggested not to do that because of the vibration. So I'm going to mount this on the back wall somewhere. The switch gear is okay. I've got plenty of lead on that on there, so I can put this. Basically, it's got to be within close range of the motor once that's mounted on the lathe. So that'll be the next thing. I'll just disconnect all these and reconnect them once I've mounted this properly. Yeah, and for the pulley, I've got one of these taper lock pulley systems. So that piece basically fits in there. That will only go in one way. Fits in there, and then there's a couple of grub screws goes in, which actually pulls this taper together in here and clamps this onto the shaft. That is a 19mm. That just goes on there like that. Well, actually you have to put that on first, then that slides on over the keyway to wherever you want it. So obviously you can position that forward and back, then that will go on there, and you put two grub screws in which come in with this part, and it locks it onto the shaft, and that is a good fit, as you can see. And that is a 1108-19, and this pulley is SBZ 67-1. That's 1108, which refers to the fitment of this. And obviously once you've got this taper part, you can then have various sizes of these, so you can optimize your torque to speed ratio on the lathe itself. I've chosen this one because it's more or less the same size as one of the pulleys, or one of the V's on the multiple pulley which came off the old motor. But obviously, yeah, I can change that. I can go up and down as I see fit once I actually get it up running and see how it's going to perform. But that's actually a very good system, I think.